America's involvement in Afghanistan. The relationship between the United States and Afghanistan has been a complex and tumultuous one. From the early days of the Cold War to the War on Terror, America's involvement in Afghanistan has spanned nearly 2 decades, influencing both nations profoundly. Let's explore the key moments and turning points in this long and complex history. The Cold War era. In the late 1970s, Afghanistan found itself in the middle of the Cold War. The Soviet Union, seeking to expand its influence, invaded Afghanistan in 1979. The Afghan government, struggling with internal rebellion, sought Soviet help. However, this move was seen as a threat by the United States and its allies. Voiceover of President Jimmy Carter, 1979. We cannot allow Afghanistan to fall under the control of the Soviet Union. In response, the U.S. began providing aid and training to the Afghan resistance, known as the Mujahideen. This was a pivotal moment that led to America's indirect involvement in Afghanistan, marking the beginning of a long relationship with the region. The Soviet withdrawal, 1989. By 1989, after nearly a decade of fierce fighting, the Soviet Union withdrew from Afghanistan, leaving behind a fractured nation and a power vacuum. The U.S. had helped the Mujahideen defeat the Soviets, but the aftermath was far from a victory for Afghanistan, with the country descending into civil war. The rise of the Taliban, 1996. In the 1990s, the Taliban, a radical Islamist group, emerged victorious in the Afghan civil war. By 1996, they had taken control of the country and imposed a strict interpretation of Sharia law. While the U.S. initially took a back seat, the Taliban's actions increasingly drew global attention, especially after they provided shelter to Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, the group responsible for the 9/11 attacks. The War on Terror, 2001 to 2002. The September 11, 2001 attacks changed everything. The U.S. was struck by one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in history, killing nearly 3,000 people. In response, President George W. Bush declared a war on terror, and Afghanistan became the primary target. Voiceover of President George W. Bush, 2001. Either you are with us, or you are with the terrorists. In October 2001, the U.S. launched Operation Enduring Freedom, a military campaign aimed at dismantling the Taliban and al-Qaeda. The invasion quickly toppled the Taliban government, and the U.S. installed a new Afghan government under Hamid Karzai. The Long War, 2002 to 2020. What followed was a prolonged military and political commitment. Despite the early success, the war dragged on for nearly 2 decades, with the U.S. and its allies struggling to stabilize the country. The Taliban regrouped and launched an insurgency that led to an ongoing cycle of violence. Voiceover of General Stanley McChrystal, 2009. This is a war we must win, for the sake of our security and the future of Afghanistan. American forces remained in Afghanistan, fighting the Taliban and attempting to rebuild the country, while facing growing challenges from corruption, political instability, and a resilient insurgency. The U.S. withdrawal and the Taliban's return, 2021. After years of negotiations, in 2020, the U.S. signed an agreement with the Taliban, signaling a gradual withdrawal of American troops. By August 2021, President Joe Biden oversaw the complete pullout of U.S. forces from Afghanistan. Voiceover of President Joe Biden, 2021. We went to Afghanistan to ensure that terrorists could not use it as a base for attacks. Our mission was never to rebuild a country. However, the rapid collapse of the Afghan government led to the return of the Taliban to power. The scenes of chaos at the Kabul airport, as thousands of Afghans tried to flee, marked a dramatic end to America's military involvement in Afghanistan. America's involvement in Afghanistan has been a story of conflict, power struggles, and shifting political landscapes. The consequences of the war will continue to affect both nations for years to come, raising questions about the effectiveness of foreign intervention and the complexities of nation building. America's 20-year presence in Afghanistan left a profound impact on the Afghan people, the U.S., and the global community. As the Taliban regains control, the future of Afghanistan remains uncertain. The story of Afghanistan and the United States is far from over, But one thing is certain, the past 2 decades have reshaped the world in ways we are still trying to understand.